practiced as a therapist for 20 years. And she is a solution-focused therapist, so she's got a very optimistic approach. And she's a specialist in human behavior in the workplace. She runs a company, Sutton Consulting Incorporated. She's just about to move to South Granville area. She's been located in Burnaby and Vancouver for a number of years, and she's taking her own advice and simplifying her life somewhat, getting more balance. She specializes in the mental health of individuals and organizations, and she offers some exceptional coaching and professional development training for clinical counselors and therapists. And I have benefited from her services myself, so I can give you my best, accolades to Claire. So please give a warm welcome to Claire Sutton.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here this evening. Before I begin, I just want to thank both Lita Zadi and Deborah Braun just for the work they've done to bring these workshops to you, to the public, both in West Vancouver and here. So I think their work goes unrecognized. So this evening we're going to run through, we've got till 8:30, right?
Correct.
So I tend to talk a lot. If you have questions, just raise your hand. I'll answer them. If I fall behind, I will just stop you. So I apologize now if I tend to be a little abrupt in stopping you, so that I want to finish the presentation. Okay? Now, this topic, prime investment, work-life balance, most people or many employers would not sign on for a workshop like this today. They would have said, it's old news, it's passé, we did that 10 years ago, problem solved. The truth of the matter is the problem is not solved, and what we're seeing today is employers asking for workshops on communication skills, conflict resolution, more and more. And then they're referring to me and to other counselors, their employees, for anger management. So, simply put, if you're not in balance, then stress fuels anger, and it fuels more conflict, and it fuels more stress, and it puts you way out of balance. So the problem where we are today is much worse than where we were 10 years ago. And I'm going to give you an overview of really what it means to be working within society today, North American society, and really more Vancouver and Canada, to understand the importance of having to get into the driver's seat of your own life. You know, I use that as a question with many of my therapy clients. If your life was a car, who's behind the wheel? Rarely is it the client. My mother-in-law, my boss, my ex-boyfriend, it's everybody else behind the wheel but themselves. What would be different if you were behind the wheel, right? So, and if you took the scenic route rather than the highway. It's just the whole idea is looking at a metaphor for your life. It's really about vision to action. We need to know where we're going so we can figure out how to get there. We're going to look at, as I said, as an overview of what the working population looks like today and what they're experiencing, the importance of getting into the driver's seat of your life. My hope is that you will embrace the importance of a work-life balance lifestyle. This is your most prime investment. If you don't invest in yourself, nobody else will. Your health is your greatest resource, right? Not your career. Not your family doesn't come first, you come first. Your health is your greatest resource. If you don't have health, nothing else works. And I'm not saying that you have to be in the best health. You have to know what your baseline is and do the best with what you have. And I'll give you what I promised in the little blurb that went out. I'll give you 6 tips for you to get the message, right, on how to 6 tips towards work-life balance that may work today. And just as an aside, the 6 tips I give you today would not have been the 6 tips I would have given you 10 years ago. So it's really to look at that. So hopefully today you take a few things away with you so that you can start either improving your work-life balance or beginning it. Now, I don't have handouts, as you noticed. But if you email me, I will send you a copy of the slides. A handout copy of the slides. Okay, so you just have to send me an email, and you'll have them by Friday or Monday. And my email's on the last slide, or I have a card here. csutton@clairesutton.com. All right. So I want to show of hands, how many are working or are in school, mostly full-time? Okay, a good many of you. All right. How many here are self-employed or run a practice? All right, thank you. So that's a little different, right? Because you can be always on as well. All right, and on a piece of paper, what I'd like you to do is just, this is for you, so you don't have to share this. However, I want you to go through the exercise. Turn it over, and I'm going to ask you a quick question. You don't have much time to think about it. Yes or no? Are you happy? You have a piece of paper? Oh, there's always one that wants therapy right away. I'll give you my card. My fee's just gone up. No. Are you happy? Yes or no? If you are happy, just in a sentence, describe it. What's it look like on the outside? What's it feel like on the inside? And if you're not happy yet, or not quite there yet, what would it look like if you are happy? And my happy is not your happy. So what would it look like? And what would it feel like on the inside? So many clients I have come in to see me, and they dry their tears, they say, I said, what would you like? They want to be happy. What would happy look like? And they can't tell me. So it's important to understand that. Okay, so just put that away, and that's for you to consider. Put all my notes here. All right, so let's begin with work-life balance, a definition. This comes, my source, the Government of Canada, is work-life balance in Canadian workplaces. Work-life balance is a self-defined, self-determined state of well-being that a person can reach or can set as a goal that allows them to manage effectively multiple responsibilities at work, at home, and in their community. It supports physical, emotional, family, and community health, and does so without grief, stress, or negative impact. Agree? Right? It's a self-determined state of well-being that a person can reach or can set a goal as a goal that allows them to manage effectively multiple responsibilities at work, at home, and in their community. It supports physical, emotional, family, and community health, and does so without grief, stress, or negative impact. Simply put, it means that you can effectively manage your life. And when we see clients, they come to see us because they're not managing their lives. And as a therapist, I really believe that I have to be a step ahead. I was just saying that to Lita. In everything, we act as models. As therapists, act as models to my client. So if I look stressed or frantic or out of control, I'm not helping them. Okay? So let's look at, can you see the slide? This is the workplace today. I want you to understand this, because as Deborah mentioned, most of my work evolved out of EAP, Employee Assistance Program. So I deal with the working population, human behavior in the workplace, and I'm very solution focused, which means I have to market myself a lot, right? So I have to get lots of work clients. So But I deal with functioning people, a lot of the working population, and many of you do too, therapists and students. But if you look at this graph represents today's workplace. From 18 to 70. We currently have 5 generations in the workplace today, from 18 to 70 and beyond, because there's no more mandatory retirement. And you know what? A lot of people are retiring. The generations, so you have the, I forget what they're called, the pre-boomers, the silent generation is what they're known, born during the war, World War II. Then you had the boomers that run from about 46 to 65. So this last piece here are the ones from the silent generation, right, that were born during World War II. You have 46 to 66, the boomers. They still take up a big chunk of the workplace, the graying workforce. You have Generation X that run roughly from 1970, anybody knows, like past 1960, just before 66, so it's from 36 to 46 is Generation X. Then you have Generation Y from about 26 to 36. And then you have the new ones coming into the workplace, the millennials that are 20 and above that are coming in. They're all in the workplace with a different set of values, because each generation has a different set of values. We're also a multicultural workplace, and not just different ethnic groups, which we are, but we have different generations of each ethnic group within each group. Do you understand what I'm saying? You may have first generation Chinese, and you have fifth generation Chinese. So their names may be similar, they may look alike, but it's where east meets west. It's very different. So with all the different generations, communication is different. It's actually like the Tower of Babel. Nobody understands each other. And story I had, I did a workshop in a workplace. It was a correctional facility, and the fellow was a guard. He was about 60 years old, and he was training the new young guards coming into the workplace who were about 25. And to open the cells and ring the bells and manage all the inmates, it's all computerized now. It looks fabulous. You know, there are things to pull, buttons to push, you know, things to squeeze, everything. You know, this gate, that gate. And he had the new generation sitting there right next to this beautiful panel of buttons and pulleys and things. And he wanted them to sit and listen. That this goes like this, and this will open the cell gates. You press this button, and this will ring this bell. And he thought they would sit and listen. He no sooner turned his head where they were all pulling things. The entire prison was, the gates were open, the bells were going. But this is the generation. They will not sit and listen. They want to, it's hands-on learning. They're in your, you know, that's the young generation, which is fine. Nothing wrong with it. It's a different way of communicating, right? They're more direct. It's a different, the boomers was more focused on work and getting your work done, where the younger generation are coming in that's focusing on life, you know, and making sure they have their ski weekends and they get their roller game, hockey games in, and trying to figure out how they're going to do that. So everything is different, but they're 5. The thing is, they're 5 generations, and you also have reverse mentoring, where you'll have the 30-year-olds will be in charge of the 50 and 60-year-olds. So that pyramid, where you work your way up to the top, is no longer there. All right, so it's really interesting. And when you look at this, it used to be that the actuaries would look at a workplace and they could tell you that by the time somebody hits maybe 40, you'll start seeing signs of physical illness. So more people, once they hit in a workplace, if this is demographic, you'll get so many people once they hit 40, with certain illnesses, so they'll be off work, whether it's musculoskeletal injuries or whether it's cancer or diabetes or whatever. You'll see more and more heart disease. They could tell how many in each category would go off work. Make sense? In 1992, mental health issues came into being in terms of medical benefits, and you could get a medical leave for mental health issues. So today, what we're seeing, how many people here know of someone who went off on a stress leave? How many? Raise your hand. So the stress leave is layman's word for medical leave due to depression or anxiety, mental health issue. Virtually 90% of the room raised their hand. So since now, today, you still have the actuaries showing that physical symptoms will start roughly around age 40. You'll see more and more people go off with ulcers, etc. However, the absenteeism due to stress leave or depression in the workplace, the average age today is 24 years old. We're seeing it in university. We never saw it in university before. People taking an entire term off for medical leave, for depression, anxiety, mental health issue. So we're seeing it in the workplace at 24 years old. So if they're going off at 24 for a medical leave, and then the rest are going off a certain percentage over 40, who's minding the fort? And when you think of the cost to bring people in, so if there's a department of 3 and somebody goes off, you two are doing all the work, right? So you have to cover for the people that are going off. Does that make sense? So when you think of the stressors that are happening, it's overwhelming.
Can you clarify what you said about the 24? So that's the average age when the stress leave?
The average age is someone going off on a medical leave for depression.
Sure. So
Okay.
people at age 24, these are...
Not every, but when you say they have so many percentage of people going off, you'll see if you have X number of people going off for medical leave, for stress leave, the average age would be 24. So you'll still have some in their 20s, you'll have some in their 30s, you'll have some in the 40s. So in other words, where before you may have them going off because they have taking a few days off because they have the flu or they have a cold, now you're seeing more and more claims coming through because of mental health issues. Look at this room. You range in age right here. And 90% of you knew somebody going off. And even more. I mean, when you look at the, right? So it's all that, yeah. So really, it's important to understand the working population. This is the working population. Okay. Just moving right along here. Don't want to get to the tips. As mentioned earlier, when I have clients come in to see me, when I ask them what they hope to get out of counseling, right, after I find out why they're here, many just say, I want to be happy. And when I ask them what happiness would look like for them, they struggle. And that's where the exploration of the work has to come from. The assessment that I do, the questions that I ask. So it's their happiness, not my happiness, given their lifestyle, what's going on. So Thomas Merton, who's a spiritual scholar, I kind of love this quote: happiness is not a matter of intensity, but of balance, order, rhythm, and harmony. Right? That your life is in balance. Happiness is not a matter of intensity, but of balance, order, rhythm, and harmony. Right? And this word intensity and balance and order, I mean, the problem today is that our work is intense. And the need to have work-life balance is you need order, rhythm, and harmony. So again, I ask, what would happiness look like for you? Right? And if any, and when clients say, I'd be on a beach somewhere. Usually means they're exhausted. And I say, I'll give you 6 months on the beach, and I'll bring you back. And you know what? They get it with the question like that. They see themselves 6 months on a beach, and when they come back, they're able to say, they can actually understand what that will feel like and come back from a break, and then they can tell me what their happiness will be. Try it on a client, it works. For you therapists up there. All right, so what is an organization's human capital? I deal with the workplaces, which means I deal with functioning clients because they're working. That's the definition of a functioning client, is that they're able to hold down a job. So it's important to understand what happens to an organization, what they have. So an organization's human capital is the collective value of experience, skills, talents, knowledge, creativity, energy, enthusiasm, engagement, and relationships that its people choose to invest in their work, right? You want people on a team that's working in a workplace to get along with the other people. They don't have to like them. They have to accept them. And what we're seeing in a lot of the conflict resolution is people are hurt because they feel they're not liked. You have to cooperate. You have to accept, but you don't have to go into it. You don't want to. But you have to get along when you're working together. So it's not about liking, it's about accepting. And it's about making the relationships that work for you in the workplace. But when dollar raise, what do you think it is that finally they're seeing some sign where people are saying, I've had enough? It's elder care issues. It used to be they've been doing it for daycare. But the boomers are dealing with it. Over 60% of the workplace now are dealing with elder care. So they just cannot deal with it. They can't get their parents in homes, or somebody's fallen and broken a hip, and that's coming in. The Generation X are dealing with kids and elder care. And when you think of the different cultural generations in the workplace, I had a client in who was 26 years old, female, first generation. Her mother did not speak English. There was no father. Her mother was 51. The other two sisters got married. The 26-year-old could not leave home. She was caring for a 51-year-old mother who, physically healthy, but did not speak English, and had to make sure she was home every night, had no friends. So when you think of elder care in the different cultural implications, it's huge. So we're seeing the signs that people are finally saying no to positions or no to some jobs because of the demands of elder care. And that's only going to get worse because the boomers get older. They didn't have a lot of the children. They're two-child families. You can't spread it over all the siblings. So it's only going to mount. And we have to learn how to do it differently. So the employer has done benefits, family-friendly policies. Work and work intensification has shot up because of technology. People are trying to get it done. Do less with more with a skinnier organization. So if you have a job, then you want to keep it. And people are afraid to speak or communicate or to look at setting boundaries. However, balance cannot be achieved just by flexible work arrangements and benefits, because those of you that know, just because you're telecommuting or working at home, doesn't mean it's a lot easier, right? Usually you're throwing laundry in during the day and you end up staying up all night doing the work, is what I hear what people do, so they're not setting the boundaries, right? So in any event, getting back to the balance. So just quickly here, my graphs, I love my very visual, so bear with me. This should have been a little better bell curve, but didn't come out the way we wanted it. This is a bell curve. So you look at people in this group, in this diagram. So the red is, we need a certain amount of stress to keep us challenged, right? We need a certain amount of stress. So optimal stress will yield optimal productivity. If there's very little stress, right, like the teenager who hangs around the house and you ask him to take out the garbage and he says, you know, Mom, I took it out last week, give me a break. You know, that's kind of not enough in the summer. Not enough to keep him challenged. So if you don't have enough stress, you'll be bored, you'll be lazy, you won't produce. So optimal stress yields optimal productivity. That's when, you know, you're challenged, you've got lots to do, and you're just in that zone where you're accomplishing, it feels terrific, right? When you go beyond optimal level of stress, so you start eating at your desk and you don't take your lunch breaks and you gave up the gym and you're working later, you know, you're trying to be seen. More stress yields less productivity. So what we're seeing is we're seeing employees, people spending more time in the workplace than 10 years ago. They're physically going to work, spending, but producing less. So you have, because what happens is you're putting in that time and then you can't read the report, you gotta read it a second or third time, or you grab the phone and you talk to your friend upstairs, geez, are you working hard? I'm really working hard. Geez, I'm just, you know, so you look for any chance to escape, whether it's talking too much on the phone, or you send an email, you press send too quickly, and you have to write 6 more emails to apologize. You know, it's all done differently. And then that goes through the organization because if the boss hears, you know, it can just be a problem. And then meetings aren't run efficiently, right? So you're running off to a meeting and nothing was accomplished. So, and that's if your boss is beyond level of stress. So this is what we're seeing. So when work intensification, and that means that you have more work. They have to get more done in less time with fewer staff. And you're breaking. Hans Selye, anybody know who he is? Dr. Hans Selye. He coined the term stress in the early 20th century. And the way he described it was, actually I think I wrote it down. If I can read my writing, excessive stress occurs when the demands made on an organism exceed that organism's reasonable capacity to fulfill them. Do you hear that? The excessive stress occurs when the demands made on an organism exceed that organism's reasonable capacity to fulfill them. We're all organisms. So when you think of an elastic band, so we use the metaphor of an elastic band. So pretend you're an elastic band, okay? When you're really relaxed, this is you sleeping, this is going to work, this is sleeping, this is going to work, this is sleeping, this is going to work. Have we got that? Every once in a while you have to go out here. Uh-oh, I got a presentation to give. Lita's gonna kill me, no. And so I have to work through the weekend, I gotta put it together, right? Or you're an accountant, it's May, it's April, you gotta get all the things done. This works if you know when you're gonna come up for air, when you're gonna, you know, go to the golf course tomorrow. And relax, right? This, you have to know when you're gonna come up for air. And then you get back to your normal routine. What's happening today, it's like this, people are out here all the time. And then they're going more. What do you think's happening to their sleep? They're not sleeping. Gee, Claire, I don't know what's the matter. I go to bed early and I wake after 3 hours. And I can't fall back to sleep. You know? And so, their sleep is out of whack. If you don't sleep, eventually your body is going to tell you you're going to stop. what's his name, Dr. Gabor Mate. You know, you hate to refer the book to clients, but it's when your body says no. If you don't recognize your own work-life balance, your body will stop you, because it will manifest eventually physically. So it's really about getting back into the driver's seat of your life. So I could talk forever on stuff like this. So getting back to that concept, though, of work intensification, it's too much work and it's too much stuff at home. It's not just work. We're not here to blame the employer. It's too much work and too much home stuff, right? It's trying to get your kids and everything, and trying to do everything, and trying to, you know, work full-time and then decide, because your 6-year-old says, Mom, I promised them that you'd make that great cheesecake. Sometimes you've just got to buy it, you know? So it's the time commitment, and it's the unremitting nature of the work that never goes away. And I know that even from my own work, that you just have to kind of know how to prioritize and do it, and that's enough. Because it never goes away. And it's learning how to delegate or to acknowledge what are the top, what's the priority. Okay. Okay, so we're almost at the tips. So what is a fully functioning employee? A well-balanced employee. It's a healthy employee, and it's a healthy, she and he is a healthy individual. Measured in terms of overall health, at home, at work, at play, in relationships, and in community. At play does not mean on your computer. Your relationships do not mean your computer. I used to tell clients way before the online dating, they'd be home and I'd say, you're not going to meet anyone between the TV and the fridge. That's not true today. Between the computer and the fridge, people do meet people. So that's and they're so surprised when they don't all measure up. But you need to get out in the relationships in the computer. Set times around it. Clients need to get out, and that's an escape. If you're just going to work and coming home and your playtime is on the computer, it's too isolating. So a healthy individual is someone who's at home, at work, you have an activity to go to take part in. You have relationships, friends that you see and socialize, and you're involved in your community. That's a balanced employee. Now, someone who's retired and someone who's working with young kids, you can't give the same to your community, but you can still give. You can pick something, whether it's the UNICEF fund or something, where you are involved and you're seen within the community. Does that make sense? Okay. This is probably all of you know this. This is from Psychology 101. Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I still use it. I still hand it out to clients. I use it to get back to basics. When they come in and they're through the roof, I have a client right now who's off the charts in terms of the stress, doesn't want to look at it, wants to look at, you know, why she doesn't feel loved by her partner because we're not communicating. She's not sleeping properly, she's not, you know, she's eating on the run, she's rarely home, she's dealing with an elderly mother. She wants to do it all, and you break. And what we look at here, when you have clients that are wanting up here, you've got to first make sure that their physiological needs are met. Are they eating? Are they sleeping? Are they getting any? Are they carving out any time for themselves? Right? You can't work on their online profile if this isn't happening. Does that make sense? And then you go to safety. Are they safe at home? Do they have income? Do they have a job? I have a client now who met somebody online, and She's here with a stable job. He's somewhere else, I think Chicago, investment banker who lost his job. And she said the relationship's going great, but he's not working. He's trying to get work at the level that he was at before, and he's so unsettled. She's feeling the anxiety and standing on one foot waiting for him. It doesn't work. You've got to look at the reality of making sure you're eating and you're sleeping and you're getting your exercise and you're going to work before you can deal with everything else. And he has to do that too. So it's understanding that. Does that make sense? Anyway, Maslow's hierarchy of needs that you can certainly Google, it's working its way from the physiological needs to self-actualization. So you can't self-actualize if nothing's working, if you're all out of whack at the bottom. Make sense? Okay, so let's look at some of the tips I put together. What you've all been waiting for. Oh, I'm trying to finish through. The 6 tips to work-life balance. Self-assessment, set the stage. We'll go through each one. Flexibility versus rigidity. Learning to breathe. Be in control of your life and your technology. Take your breaks, daily and your holidays. So, as I said, these are different than what I've done 10 years ago. You've got to do your own self-assessment. I mentioned get in the driver's seat of your life. Assess your own emotional and physical well-being. What's working, what's not working? Are you happy? You know, what's your doctor say? What's your employer say? What do your kids say? You know, what's missing in your life? What can you let go of? Delegate. I often see couples where one person is doing all the responsibility, all the finances, all the kids' homework, all the everything else. And the other one is doing, you know, cleaning the bathroom or cleaning something else. It's a bit out of whack. You've got to make sure there's a partnership. So you've got to get in the driver's seat of your life, assess your own emotional well-being. And that takes time. Carve out 20 minutes and sit down. What's working, what's not working in my life? And I find with women more than men, if I say to them, if they've been overworked, if I could give you 2 hours a week to play, what would you do? Many wouldn't know what to do. They have no idea what they would do. Whether it would be, you know, for a walk on the seawall or a bike ride around Sutton Park, or just, you know, soak in the tub, something. Many would not know, many don't know what to do. And then the other question I would ask is, what did you do when you were 10, 11, 12, 13? Because if you were interested in music then, you'd be interested in music now. Even if you quit piano or choir, you could do it now. If you played hopscotch or baseball, you could play it now. If you, you know, it means you had a body that wants to move, you can bring that back. So it's important to figure out what you would do and to carve out some time for yourself to play. Whether it's, and yoga is not playing, yoga is spiritual, it's meditation. So go to a yoga class, and the first one to promote that, if that's not play, you still have to find something to play or to sing, join a choir, play volleyball, something. Okay, and what can you let go of? What's on your plate? And if you're dealing with elderly parents and you have siblings, reach out to them. You can't, someone who says, oh, you're better at it than I am, it doesn't work. You know, you're so good at visiting mom in hospital, I just can't do that. Figure it out, I'll show you how, come with me. You know, you can't, it really is important because you can't cut it. You spread it, you spread the work. So the first tip is take a reading. What's working, what's not working in your life. And there's a word here tonight that I want you to comprehend. You can reflect and say, oh, this isn't working. But I want you to think of the word praxis. It's actually a theological word. It means to reflect. And then to take action. Commit to take action. So reflecting isn't enough. Reflect what's working, what's not working, then commit to let go of this and take on that. Make sense? And that's praxis. Okay, the next tip is set the stage. Those of you who've worked with me, I believe in vision to action planning. You don't know how to get there unless you have a plan. So if you were going to go to Newfoundland and drive to Newfoundland, you wouldn't just hop in your car. You get the car ready, you get a map, you talk to people, you figure out where you'd stay, and you plan your course. Same thing we have to do with our life and with our career. So you may have it long term and you want to check in and reassess it every 3 to 5 years or so. It's true with careers. If you're stuck, you're going through a transition. That's my belief. And then once you know it's a transition and there's hope that you're not going to be stuck there forever, then you can figure out how to do it differently. Make sense? So vision to action is figuring out where you need to be, and that's how I do solution-focused work. You figure out what's bothering them, where they want to be, and I help them get on the yellow brick road to that spot, right? Because then they have the hope and optimism to move forward. So the work is very structured. Visualize the way that you'd like your life to be. It's self-management versus time management. It's not time management, it's self-management. Look at I still use a book, a day timer with the book, so I can see my whole work week, and I can write it in and cross out. My thumbs don't work like the other way, but I can't see the entire week. I like to see the week. And if I have too many things in a row, then I need to give myself an evening free, right? So I knew I was doing this tonight, so I don't know when you booked me. A year ago, I booked off my afternoon. So I'm not running from one place to another. You just have to make sure you come up for air. And so you look at your day timer, so it's self-management. Carve out time for yourself, but don't have it chock-a-block full. You have to look at it. Does it make sense that I do this and this and this and this and this? Right? I do it with my clients. I won't go back to back to back to back because they're not getting the best of me. Identify your non-negotiables. What can you not do without? What's non-negotiable? Right? My yoga class Wednesday night is non-negotiable. It's so unlike me, it's so woo-woo, you know what I mean? But I like the class, it's non-negotiable. I won't take a client, I won't stretch my day. Doesn't happen, right? So you have to look at what's non-negotiable and make sure that's there for you. And work with your partner if you have a family so that your non-negotiables, you know what I mean with non-negotiables, right? Even if it's a night where you're home and you've planned chocolate milk all over a white carpet, why do you think we counted to 10? So that she'll be alive by the time we got to 10, before you said anything. But that's just to take that deep breath, right? If you leave a little cup of chocolate milk next to a 2-year-old, it's going to spill, chances are. So you just want to, it makes you fear when somebody yells at you on the phone, or if that ever happens, or a client is upset. If you just take a deep breath, you can help them pace themselves. And I'll have clients who get upset or emotional or crying, and I'll just say, just follow my breath, and they will calm down, and they'll be able to engage and deal with their upset. So it helps you think more clearly and intelligently. It also brings you into mindfulness. It brings you into the present. When we're anxious, we're either in the past or we're in the future, right? As I mentioned to you, I've done some work with the government, and a lot of people who are being let go, they're thinking, I'll never get a job like I have with this one, I'll never do this, I'll never earn the same money. Or they're in the future. They have their job, right? But they're saying, oh, the new boss, he's not gonna like me, he's not gonna do this, I don't think I can trust him. These are all assumptions, right? But if you just take a deep breath and say, this is what's happened, this is where I am, what can I control? What's within my power to control? How can I enjoy the process? Right? I've been in this job for X number of years. I know I've done something right. Right? So it's building your self-esteem again. Right? Because the fear is usually tied to something in our inner child. Like, we're afraid, we're not good enough, or something's happened. But when we're in the moment, what the breath will allow you to do to be 100% conscious. And when you're in the moment, when you're conscious and you're mindful, and you're enjoying the process, and then you lose track of time because you're in the flow, right? And you're doing the work, and it's great, right? Does that make sense? Okay, so this is, as I said, it's not rocket science, but it's one of the biggest issues today are people are in that fight or flight response. And the only people that should be having their cell phones on is if you're an emergency room surgeon or an on-call therapist. I get it. Your phone has to be on for a period of time that you're on call. Otherwise, set some boundaries around it. You know, your phone message can just say, tied up right now, I'll get back to you my first opportunity. Even if it's your boss. Right? And as soon as you start putting some structure into your life and controlling, I guess this should go under technology, but it's also being 100% conscious because you're in charge. Let's go on. I'm going to allow a few minutes for questions if I can. Yeah, being in control of your life is including your technology. Now, I start with eat the frog. Does anybody know what that means? Okay, so I think it was Brian Tracy, the business guru. So the thinking goes like this. Every morning when you wake up, you've got to eat the ugliest frog first. And what that refers to is the eggs. The thing that's on your to-do list that you don't want to do, you do it first. You plan to get it out of the way. Right? You deal with the greatest angst first. You haven't written that paper, you get that paper done. The IT guy wants the content for the website, I gotta get it done. You know, and when you plan that, it is such a relief. It is such an incredible relief to get it done. I actually had these slides ready last week. Because I gotta get the damn thing done. And I had the weekend to enjoy it, it was great. So that is huge. When you deal with your greatest angst, so the idea, his thing was to eat the frog. So you have the beautiful blueberries and the raspberries and the pancakes and the granola, and you have this ugly frog. You eat it first, and then you can enjoy everything else. That's how he put it in. So everybody, turn over, what's the biggest thing that's weighing on your mind right now? You gotta meet with your financial advisor, what else? You gotta book the colonoscopy, what else? Whatever, right? Gotta call mom. What's the biggest angst? Write down your biggest angst. Is anybody ready? And make a commitment to do that. First time, by the weekend or tomorrow if you have time. Set a schedule for your emails. Look at them in the morning, look at them at noon, or in the evening. You don't have to look at your personal emails during the day unless you're expecting something serious. Check them in the morning, you don't have to check them again until the evening. You don't check them at work. Set a schedule, because what happens is the number of people that check their emails and then have to stay late to do their proper work after hours, because they didn't get it done, or they have to take it home, right? And then they go home, and they're missing out on the little guys' show and tell replay, because they have to go look at their email, or they don't want to miss anything. So technology has control of you instead of the other way around. So set the schedule for your emails. Get out of the knee-jerk reaction, right? I know BlackBerry isn't au courant anymore. We used to call it a crackberry, you know, because it was or you had a leash to it because you couldn't let go. You were addicted to your BlackBerry. Now it's the iPhone, the smartphone. Really. Great marketing. Get out of the knee-jerk reaction. Turn off your cell phone when you have a work commitment, home commitment, dinner commitment. If I see one more couple in a beautiful restaurant texting or checking their phone message, it's awful, right? So be in control of your life and your technology. Be behind the wheel. And that's going to take time to do that. Take your breaks. Tip number 6, take your breaks. Your breaks are to rejuvenate you. You have a coffee break, take it. You're self-employed, make sure you have one. It doesn't have to be coffee, it can be a walk around the block. It can be, but get up from your desk and leave. The research is out there now. If you're sitting down for more than, I think, an hour at a time without moving, it's not good for your health, not just your posture, but forget which organ is not good for you. But can't remember everything. But I know it's not good for your health. Your breaks give you something to look forward to. Book a lunch with somebody. It doesn't have to cost money. You can pack your lunch. Even as self-employed, I mean, I'm self-employed. I have to make sure I have people to stay here, or lunch to happen, because it gives you something to look forward to shift. Otherwise, your day drags on, and you're not rejuvenated, right? So you have to find time, and I can't say enough. And having a break at your desk is not a break. Eating your lunch at your desk is not a break. Reading a magazine, get up, go outside. Go somewhere, walk around the building, and just take a break, deep breathe. It gives you something to look forward to. Leave your desk, get to your personal activities at least 10 minutes early. Don't rush there. Make that happen. Carve out that time, because then you have a life. Plan your holidays. Let me just show you one thing. Get a great pen here. See, if you just have your work to go to, if something happens and you lose your work, there's your life. We saw this with a lot of men who would have work in their relationship. This is before, in traditional marriages, when women didn't work. Way back, when was that? Not a bad idea, do you think? Do you think we could bring that back? I don't know. The working relationship, what happened is once they retired, they didn't have work. And only the relationship, women felt they had twice the husband and half the income at that time. But no. What happened is that they had no identity. And you would see them die a couple of years after retirement, even though at this point they were very healthy. So, you know, when you just have work in your relationship, or the other way around, if you have work and a relationship, and the relationship ends, then the work becomes everything. And we've all seen clients like that. What you want is to see a panel or a console. and you have work. Let's see if I can do this. You have relationship, you have family, you have friends, you have spiritual time. You have volunteer time. Okay, volunteer time. You have hobbies. You have leisure. And this is like a fitness activity. This is like a craft, a choir. There's one more. It will come to me. What?
Play.
Play? P-L-A-Y? Oh, there's alone time. I knew there was something. That's where you just kick off your shoes, have that bubble bath, and so just think about this for a minute, because we're going to see the generations go through, as I said, 10 to 15 career changes. Going into those career changes, they're going to have gaps. Companies are going to be downsized, they're going to be out of work, or they're going to decide to leave. So it's not going to be all smooth. So if you lose your work, you still have a great support system here. Now, depending on your age and what's going on in your family, what's going on in your nuclear family, you know, family might mean mom and dad are far away, or kids are grown up, but you have Sunday dinners, or you have certain times to call them. I have a client who has a 2-year-old niece in Montreal, so what she's afraid of not seeing her, so she's Skyping her every 2 weeks at a certain time. I think she's letting the little girl straight. So enough to have a few minutes. So that's how she's connecting with family. Alone time is when it's just you. You know, like you turn off your cell phone and you can just chill. Leisure is when you have that volleyball or the tennis class or the dance class. You're in a group and you're connecting, you're playing and you're socializing. Hobby is like a choir or a pottery class. Yoga would fall into a spiritual time, because I find that's very meditative. If you go, even if it's a group, you're usually going, you're very much on your own. Volunteer, Lita, it's when you volunteer your time. Now, for instance, when you're retired or you're working part-time, you can volunteer a lot more. If you have 6 little kids at home and you're working full-time, as I say, you might volunteer for UNICEF or Christmas morning, maybe not Christmas morning, but one at a time, the soup kitchen, something, find something. You have your work, you have your relationship, or looking for a relationship, your significant other. You have friends that you connect with. And not just on, I'm not talking Facebook, I'm talking, you call somebody up, let's walk the seawall. It doesn't always have to be dinner and wine, it can be time, it can be another activity. Yeah?
Would a category be do something new?
Absolutely, something new. Try something new, something new. This is the console. You can expand this. What you want to do, see the problem we've done today too, compared to 10 years ago, we teach work-life balance and we'd say you got to exercise, get to the gym. What went wrong with the intensification is people now, I have clients that are going to the gym at 4 a.m. to fit it in. That's not work-life balance, right? Or they're staying past midnight to do the crafts because they want to do crafts. So they're doing crafts from midnight to 2 a.m. to have work-life balance. That's like the smorgasbord where you're putting too much on your plate. So you've got to know what you can do. When my kids were little, when I'd volunteer, I was like the team manager of the hockey team. So I could be taking the hockey and I think I co-managed too, it wasn't all me. Or I did the 50-50 tickets. That's what I could give, right? As they get grow older, you can do more, and I can still see more I want to do. Then you can try different. Here, so just look, you lose your relationship. Gee, that hurts, and you're crying, and you feel terrible. But you know what? You've got a tennis match to play on Wednesday night, so shape up and get there, and you can cry afterwards. And that's where your friends will say, come on, we need you, you're on the team. And that, or you're in the class, we're expecting you. Or with friends, I know when I was really busy with kids, what we did is we got together on our birthdays, or we put a couple of times, so if there are 4 or 5 of us in a certain group, we managed to do that. So it's not going to be the same when you're really busy in family life, but you spread it. So this is like the panel. So it's looking at, what have I got in my life? So it's easy, then you can say to your boss, you know, no, I can work overtime, but I can't work overtime tonight. He doesn't have to know you have a volleyball game. She doesn't have to know that. You know, unless they've given you like 6 months notice and they said, all of April, we need everybody working every Thursday night. It's a different story, then you can plan around it. All right, so take your holidays, plan them. The number of clients I see that tell me they have all these holidays banked and they haven't taken a day is ridiculous. Take them. Go. You don't have to spend a ton of money. You know, go, you know, drive up to, I don't know, Harrison Lakes, or just go down to False Creek and have a picnic. You don't have to. Spanish Banks, you can enjoy the day. All right. So I want you to turn back to the paper that you had when you first came in. Are you happy? What would happy look like for you if your life was balanced? What do you need to tweak that at all? Okay, we're tweaking. What's one thing you're going to do to improve your work-life balance? Have you thought of it?
I invite you again next month.
I want you to tell the person next to you what you're going to do. What's one thing that you're taking away from today? One thing. What's one thing? What's one thing? Is that Jonathan? Breathe. Breathe. Is there any questions? Anybody have a question before? Perfect. Yeah.